Welcome, my fellow spiritual adventurers. Today, we're diving into a topic that will take you beyond the surface of what you think you know. We're talking about the top 10 spiritual guides that 99.9% of people misunderstand, except for you. Yes, you, because you're here, and by the end of this journey, you'll see these guides in a way that few ever do. Each guide holds a key, and if you can unlock their true nature, they will transform your life in ways unimaginable. But first, let's start with a question. What if the very thing you misunderstood about your spiritual guides is what's holding you back from reaching your highest potential? What if all along, they've been whispering, guiding, and nudging you, but you didn't hear them because you were expecting something else? Keep that question in mind as we go deeper.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
We often think of spiritual guides as separate beings, angels, ancestors, or wise figures from another realm. But what if I told you that many of your guides are not outside of you, but reflections from deep within? What if they are versions of you from different dimensions? Versions that have walked paths, made choices, and evolved in ways that you haven't yet. You see, the quantum field holds infinite possibilities, and within that infinite potential, every version of you exists. Some of these versions have mastered unconditional love, some wisdom, some creativity, and others, a fierce warrior spirit. These versions of you are guiding you. But here's where almost everyone gets it wrong. They think the guides are eternal beings, when in truth, they are echoes of your own soul's potential. But let's go deeper. Have you ever felt a sudden surge of inspiration? A creative burst that seemed to come out of nowhere? Or perhaps you've had a moment where you just knew something without understanding how you knew it. These are not random occurrences. They are moments when one of your spiritual guides, the future version of you, reached through the quantum veil to offer you a gift. They're feeding you energy, wisdom, and insight from the path they've already walked. You just didn't know it was them. Here's an example. Imagine you're working on something, and out of nowhere you feel this pull to change direction. You might dismiss it, thinking it's just your mind wandering. But what if that pull was a spirit guide, a version of you from a different dimension, showing you a glimpse of the path they've already mastered? What if, instead of ignoring it, you leaned into it, trusted it, and allowed it to guide you? That's the kind of connection we're talking about here. Now, let's talk about a guide that most people misunderstand: the warrior archetype. This guide isn't just about physical strength, it's about spiritual resilience. It's the part of you that has faced countless battles, both internal and external, and emerged victorious. But most people think of the warrior as someone who fights, someone who confronts. Here's the deep truth: the true warrior spirit doesn't fight to destroy, it fights to protect and to heal. The warrior within you knows when to stand up and when to step back. It understands the balance between assertiveness and surrender. This guide shows up when you're facing a challenge, not to push you into conflict, but to remind you of your inner strength, your ability to endure and overcome. How often have you misinterpreted your inner warrior's guidance, thinking it was pushing you toward conflict, when in reality it was guiding you toward strength and peace? The next time you feel that surge of energy, that fire within, ask yourself, is this my warrior guide reminding me of my power? Now let's shift gears for a moment. We've talked about the warrior guide, but what about the guide of wisdom? This guide is often mistaken for the voice of reason or logic. But wisdom is not the same as knowledge. Knowledge is information. Wisdom is knowing how, when, and why to use that information. Your wisdom guide is that version of you who has walked the path of mastery, who has seen the consequences of every action, every choice. When you feel stuck, lost, or uncertain, it's often because you're not tuning into this guide. The wisdom guide doesn't shout, it whispers. It's subtle but profound. You've had those moments where you just know what to do, even though the logical path seemed different. That's your wisdom guide speaking. Now, let me ask you something. How often do you ignore your own inner wisdom because it doesn't align with what society or logic tells you? And what would happen if you started trusting it more? As we go deeper, we begin to see that spiritual guides are not just external entities. They are reflections of different parts of ourselves. And the more we understand this, the more we can integrate their guidance into our lives. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think that once they connect with a guide, that's it. They believe that the guide will show up and everything will magically fall into place. But my friend, spiritual evolution doesn't work that way. Your guides, whether they are future versions of yourself, benevolent beings, or archetypal energies, are not here to do the work for you. They're here to guide, to inspire, to nudge you in the right direction. But you have to walk the path. Have you ever felt disconnected from your guides? Like you're trying to reach out, but there's nothing coming back? That's because there's something you're not seeing. Spirit guides don't abandon you. They never leave. But sometimes they step back because you've become too dependent on them. They're not here to make your choices for you. They're here to support you in making your own choices. The moment you become too reliant on them, they'll take a step back to remind you of your own power. Now, let me ask you, how often have you given away your power, thinking that someone or something else knows better than you? And what would happen if you took that power back? Let's pick up where we left off by diving into a truth that will shake the very foundation of how you perceive your spiritual guides. They're not just here for you, you're also here for them. This might sound surprising at first, but think about it. If your guides are future versions of yourself, evolved versions of your consciousness from different dimensions, then they are continuously learning from every step you take, every choice you make. It's not a one-way street. It's a feedback loop. When you're inspired, when you choose to follow your intuition, your guides are benefiting. They're evolving through you just as much as you're evolving through them. This is a relationship built on mutual growth. They are not omnipotent beings who know every detail of your future. They're not dictating your every move. Instead, they're offering guidance based on the paths they've already walked. But here's the catch: every choice you make in the present moment changes the trajectory of not just your life, but their existence as well. It's like a ripple effect across dimensions. So let me ask you, what if every choice you make today is not just shaping your future, but is expanding the consciousness of your guides? What kind of impact would that have on the way you approach your life? Most people think their guides know everything, that they're all-seeing, all-knowing beings. But that's not the case. They're not here to micromanage your life. They're here to help you navigate your own spiritual evolution. They're like mentors who've been through the fire and come out the other side. They have wisdom to offer, but they're not here to live your life for you. That's why it's so important to maintain your free will. The more you exercise your free will, the more you grow, and the more they can offer you in return. But here's where it gets even deeper. There's this misconception that guides are always perfectly aligned with us, that they're always working in harmony with our desires. But sometimes, what we see as resistance, what we perceive as a blockage, is actually one of our guides trying to redirect us. You see, there's a difference between being blocked and being redirected. A block feels frustrating. It feels like you're hitting a wall over and over again. But a redirection, if you're paying attention, feels more like a gentle nudge. It's like when you're trying to push forward with a plan, but suddenly, things just don't work out the way you expected. Instead of viewing it as a setback, ask yourself, is this a guide telling me there's a better way? How often do we resist those moments, pushing harder, trying to force something into place, when all the while, our guides are saying, trust me, this isn't the way. There's something better waiting for you if you just let go. The next time you feel blocked, instead of forcing your way through, pause. Listen, ask yourself, is this a redirection? Is my guide trying to show me a path I haven't considered yet? Now let's talk about another guide that's misunderstood by almost everyone, the guide of silence. This guide is often overlooked because we live in a world that's obsessed with noise, external noise, internal noise, the constant chatter of the mind. But the guide of silence is one of the most powerful and one of the most subtle. Silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of everything. It's in silence that we hear the whispers of our soul, the whispers of our guides. But here's the problem: most people are terrified of silence. They fear what they might find in the quiet. They fear the unknown. So they fill their lives with distractions, with noise, with endless activity to drown out the silence. But silence is where the truth lives. Silence is where your guides speak the loudest. When was the last time you allowed yourself to sit in complete silence, not just externally, but internally? When was the last time you gave your mind permission to be still? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of the most profound ways your guides communicate with you. In silence, you hear the subtleties of your intuition. You hear the guidance that has always been there, but that you've drowned out with the busyness of life. Your spirit guides often work through silence because it's in that space that they can align with you most clearly. The next time you feel lost or disconnected from your guides, don't look for signs in the external world. Look for it in the silence. Ask yourself, what is it that I'm not allowing myself to hear in this moment? You see, most people are waiting for some grand, external sign to confirm their connection to their guides. They want the flash of light, the ringing in the ears, the mystical experience. But the truth is, your guides are often communicating with you in the most subtle ways. They're not always going to show up in a dramatic fashion. Sometimes, their guidance is as quiet as a shift in your energy, a feeling in your gut, or a sudden clarity that comes over you in a moment of stillness. But let's go even deeper. Another guide that people often misunderstand is what I call the shadow guide. This is the guide that most people run from. It's the part of you that you've buried, the part of you that holds your deepest fears, your unresolved wounds, and your unhealed trauma. You might be wondering, how could this possibly be a guide? Well, here's the truth: the shadow guide is one of the most powerful teachers you will ever encounter, because it holds the key to your greatest transformation. But here's the thing: most people misunderstand the shadow guide as something negative, something to be avoided. They don't realize that this guide is here to help them confront the parts of themselves they've been avoiding. It's here to show them the lessons hidden in their pain, the wisdom buried in their wounds. And if you're brave enough to face this guide head-on, it will lead you to a level of healing and empowerment that no other guide can offer. So let me ask you, what part of yourself are you running from? What pain, what fear, what unresolved emotion are you avoiding? Because I guarantee you, the shadow guide is already there, waiting for you to acknowledge it, to face it, and to integrate it. And here's the secret: the moment you stop running from your shadow is the moment you begin to understand its true purpose. It's not here to harm you, it's here to heal you. Most people misunderstand their spiritual guides because they're looking for the light. But the truth is, light and shadow are two sides of the same coin. You cannot have one without the other. And if you're only willing to embrace the light, you're missing out on half of your spiritual evolution. Your guides work in both realms, and the more you can integrate both the light and the shadow within yourself, the more aligned you become with their guidance. Now, this brings us to a crucial point. Are you willing to face both the light and the shadow within yourself? Are you willing to embrace the totality of your being, knowing that your guides are here to support you in this journey, but that they cannot do the work for you? Now that we've peeled back the layers of what your spiritual guides truly are, it's time to reveal the ultimate truth, something so profound that once you grasp it, your entire approach to life will shift. You see, your guides, whether they appear as future versions of yourself, archetypal energies, or even external beings with their own unique consciousness, are not separate from you. The illusion of separation is one of the greatest misunderstandings that 99.9% of people fall into. But not you. Not anymore. Here's the revelation: you are your guides, and they are you. The connection between you and them is not like a phone call reaching out to the cosmos, hoping for a response. It's more like a conversation within yourself, across dimensions, across timelines, across the vast expanse of your own consciousness. Every insight you receive, every nudge, every synchronicity is you speaking to yourself, guiding yourself from a higher, more evolved state of being. Now, let me ask you, how does it feel to know that you've never been alone in this journey? That every time you felt lost, confused, or uncertain, it was simply a part of you that already knows the way, trying to break through your current reality and show you the path. What changes in your life when you stop looking for answers outside of yourself and start realizing that you already hold all the wisdom you need? This is the ultimate revelation. Your spiritual guides are not external to you. They are you in different forms, different expressions, different timelines. And when you begin to fully embody this truth, everything in your life begins to shift. Let's break this down. Think about the archetypal guides we've discussed so far: the warrior, the wise elder, the shadow guide, and the guide of silence. Each of these represents a facet of you. The warrior is your strength, your resilience, your ability to face challenges head-on. The wise elder is your deep inner knowing, the part of you that has already lived through countless lifetimes and carries the wisdom of the ages. The shadow guide is your unhealed wounds, your fears, the parts of yourself you've hidden away but that hold the key to your greatest transformation. And the guide of silence? That's the stillness within, the part of you that knows the truth beyond words, beyond thoughts, beyond the noise of everyday life. But here's the thing: none of these guides exist outside of you. They are all aspects of your own consciousness, waiting to be integrated, waiting to be acknowledged. And once you begin to recognize this, the way you interact with these guides will change forever. Let me give you an example. Have you ever felt a sudden rush of strength in a moment of weakness? A surge of energy when you thought you had nothing left to give? That's your inner warrior stepping forward, reminding you of your power. But most people misunderstand this. They think it's some external force giving them strength. In reality, it's your own higher self, your own guide, showing you what you're truly capable of. Or think about those moments of deep intuition, the ones where you just know what to do, even when it doesn't make logical sense. That's the wise elder, the part of you that has already walked this path in a different dimension, in a different timeline. The wisdom you receive in those moments isn't coming from some external guide, it's coming from you. It's your future self, reaching back through the quantum field to offer guidance to your current self. But here's the real key to all of this integration. It's not enough to know that your guides are aspects of yourself. You must actively work to integrate them into your everyday life. This is where most people get stuck. They may have moments of connection, moments of insight, but they don't know how to fully embody the wisdom their guides are offering. They don't know how to live in alignment with their highest self. So how do we integrate these guides into our lives? It starts with awareness. You must become aware of when these guides are speaking to you. You must learn to recognize their presence, their energy, and their messages. This requires mindfulness, introspection, and a willingness to listen to the subtle cues in your life. For example, the next time you feel a surge of inspiration, don't brush it off. Don't dismiss it as a random thought. Instead, pause. Ask yourself, which guide is speaking to me right now? Is it the wise elder offering me insight from a higher dimension? Is it the warrior reminding me of my strength? Is it the shadow guide showing me a wound that needs healing? Or is it the guide of silence inviting me to sit in stillness and listen to the truth within? Once you become aware of which guide is speaking to you, the next step is to act on that guidance. This is where true alignment happens. It's not enough to receive the guidance, you must embody it. You must take action in your life that reflects the wisdom, the strength, the healing, or the stillness that your guides are offering. Here's a practical exercise for you the next time you feel a strong, intuitive pull. Take a moment to pause. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask yourself which part of me is offering this guidance. Is it my future self, my higher self, or perhaps an archetypal energy that I've yet to fully integrate? Then, once you've identified the source of the guidance, ask yourself, how can I embody this in my life right now? What action can I take that aligns with this wisdom? It could be something as simple as choosing to respond with love instead of fear. Or it could be something more profound, like making a life-changing decision that you've been avoiding. The key here is to trust. Trust that the guidance you're receiving is coming from the highest part of yourself. Trust that your guides, whether they appear as future versions of you, archetypes, or external beings, are all here to help you walk your path with greater clarity, purpose, and alignment. Let's take it even deeper. Remember how we talked about the feedback loop between you and your guides? Well, here's the mind-blowing part. When you choose to act on the guidance you receive, you're not just evolving yourself, you're evolving your guides. Because remember, they are you. Every time you make a choice that aligns with your highest self, you're contributing to the collective evolution of your own consciousness across dimensions. This is why free will is so important. Your guides can offer you guidance, but they cannot make the choices for you. That's the beauty of this relationship. You're not a puppet being controlled by some higher force. You are a co-creator in your own evolution. Every choice you make ripples out through the quantum field, affecting not just your present reality, but the entire web of your existence across time and space. And here's where we come full circle. The moment you fully embody the wisdom of your guides, you cease to misunderstand them. You realize that they were never external beings, sitting on some higher plane, looking down at you. They were always you. They were always aspects of your own consciousness, waiting for you to recognize and integrate them. And when you do, you step into your full power. You become not just a seeker of guidance, but a source of it. You become the guide. So let me leave you with one final question. What would your life look like if you fully embodied the wisdom of your spiritual guides right now? The answer to that question holds the key to your transformation.